Hey, my name is Brian Williamson, and this is a story of kind of my crazy spring in 2024. I did 5 different bike rides in 5 different cities across 5 different states, 5 weekends in a row. So and the goal was to do all Bike MS rides. 4 of the 5 ended up being Bike MS rides, and this is kind of the story of how that idea germinated and how the planning happened and how it all unfolded. So it started out when I was a kid. I was like 10 years old, and my best friend Rob and I had watched the movie American Flyers. And in that movie, Kevin Costner and David Grant they play brothers, and they basically are going from Madison, Wisconsin to Colorado for a bike race. And what they do is they train along the way. So their girlfriends are driving the van for support, and they're just riding through the countryside. And I was like, so I had this since I was a kid, I'm like, this would be an awesome thing to do, like ride across country, do some bike races. And then I moved to San Antonio in 2015, and 2 friends of mine, Jonathan Haas was one of them, and Keith Aguilar is another one. So Jonathan had done some of these Bike MS rides, and I didn't know a whole lot about them. But he was doing them with his brother Mark, and he's like, dude, you gotta get a bike, we gotta get you out here, you gotta do this. And I was like, I had ridden a lot when I was a kid, right? So back in the Kevin Costner, it's all Kevin Costner's fault days. So John's like, you gotta come do these rides. And I'm like, okay, I'll think about it, not really. And my buddy Keith he was trying to get sponsored as a racer in San Antonio for road bikes. And so they were egging me on and nagging me. Bike MS, they do bike rides all over the country. And they're in different cities. I mean, East Coast, West Coast, South, North, Wisconsin, Florida, LA, and it's really kind of where a lot of the National MS Society they get a lot of their operating budget from what they generate from these rides. And so Bike MS is a component of the National NMSS, the National MS Society, and they help people with treatments for MS. They help people living with MS. They provide this whole network for them to help them with stuff. And so that's what Bike MS does. So I got into start riding with Meat Fight. They have people who do teams at all these different rides, or at least where they have folks. And so Meat Fight does is it's a nonprofit organization, and it started out as a barbecue fundraiser for some of these Bike MS rides. And it turned into a nonprofit organization, and what they exist to do is really get people with MS up and moving. They provide bikes for free, they provide gear, support, and it's a whole network of people. And as I got into this, I started becoming friends and having really close relationships with some of these folks, and seeing what both Bike MS and what Meat Fight was doing for these people, and helping them with treatments, helping them with the community, other people. There's Facebook groups, so they're talking about what treatments are working and where can I go, what doctors and what cities do I need to see. And so it's really awesome. So between the Bike MS events and then the Meat Fight team I started riding with, these people are just phenomenal. And some of them are fighting cancer right now and doing some other things, and they're just fighters, and they're just awesome.
Meat Fight! Meat Fight! Meat Fight! Meat Fight!
Meat fight! Meat fight!
Meat Fight!
Get out of those shammies! Get out of those shorts!
Who that is?
Meat Fight! Meat Fight!
All right, so the first week I was home doing training rides in San Antonio, and then I drove by myself to Louisiana, to Hammond, Louisiana, for the 2-day ride there. And Stephen Kramer is the team captain of the local, in San Antonio we have a TLH, the Team Left Hand. They're sponsored by the Left Hand Brewery, and they're one of the biggest teams in San Antonio for the San Antonio Bike MS ride. And Stephen Kramer knew a gentleman named Rene Caballero, who is a captain of a LA Neighbors team in Louisiana. So Stephen was like, hey, if you're going, I'll be there, we can hang out. And so Drove to Louisiana and met Renee and Steven, and it was interesting because you do the packet pickup, you get your stuff the night before, and that was nice. But I didn't think I'd know anybody there but Steven. So the next morning I show up in the parking lot for day one, and I see like 2 guys with meat fight jerseys as soon as I park. I'm like, I didn't think there's any meat fight people here. There was like one other guy, and so turns out there were 4 or 5 of us. So John Bennett was one of them. It's like his 34th year doing bike MS rides, meat fight, and then Cameron Miller was his first ever. So if you have MS, meat fight, you fill out application and they give you a bike. And so it was actually Cameron Miller lives in Louisiana, and it was his first ever bike MS ride on his meat bike, is what they call it. So it was really cool to see him like in this first time, and he'd ridden before, he knew a lot about bikes, and it was kind of cool to see him like, hey, I got this bike and we'll do this ride. And then Renee was awesome, the people at the ride were awesome. The ride was really well supported, a lot of, riding through woods and back roads with no cars. I had motorcycle escorts the whole time, it was great. And they had, Cajun food and stuff for lunch and afterwards.
All right, I am here with
Renee Caballero.
All right, tell me, sir, why do you bike MS?
Well, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I bike MS because my good friend's brother has MS, and we're crazy to do 150 miles, but I like raising money, and I'm actually decent at it. And I met a lot of good friends, like Stephen Kramer.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, I'm Marissa Hacker. I am the Bike MS director that oversees the That's How We Roll ride here in the great state of Louisiana.
You are awesome. Tell me why you do what you do.
I do what I do because of all of the hugs, smiles, laughs, tears that are shared throughout Bike MS weekend. There's just nothing like the community and the heart that's at the center of the work that we do for people with MS. And it just keeps me energized day after day and keeps our community energized day after day.
That is awesome. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you so
coming
much.
out.
Awesome.
So at the end of day 2 on the ride, Stephen Kramer says, hey, you need to meet Annie Klein because she's going to do the ride that you're doing in Florida in 2 weeks. I was like, oh. So I met Annie, I met James Evans, and a few other people, and they were like, oh yeah, we're going to be in Florida in 2 weeks. I'm like, that's great. So it was like, all of a sudden I had friends that I didn't know I was going to make, and I was going to see them in 2 weeks on another bike ride. And that ended up being really awesome and a really cool part of the story.
Head up, look through those clouds of gray.
So week 2, I come back from Louisiana and do a couple local training rides. Saw Stephen Kramer again. I did a Team Left Hand. They did a training ride. They do Tuesday nights near downtown San Antonio. Saw him again. And then did another training ride on Thursday. And then Friday was the day I flew to Dallas, took the train out to Rowlett. My mom picked me up. I hung out with them for an evening, and then my dad in the morning drove me to Denton, where I picked up the RV from a gentleman named Jerry that I rented through Outdoorsy.
We got Jerry.
Hello.
This is my dad, Michael. And we're picking up this bad boy right here.
Welcome to your new home for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And so literally Saturday morning, Rowlett to Denton, picked up the RV. Saturday afternoon, drove the RV first time from Denton to San Antonio, and then had to prep for doing the Le Tap race the next day. And so the Le Tap race was on Sunday in San Antonio. That was cool, and then I literally hopped in the RV the next day. It took a while to load it up and figure it out, and drove. So I'd just been in Hammond, Louisiana for the Bike MS ride, and I liked the area. And I had found a local ride that was pretty much in Mandeville, pretty much the same area. So I did a ride in Louisiana that day, and then drove on Wednesday, and then rode in Gainesville, Florida on Thursday, did a training ride there. And both of those were good rides. Lot of sightseeing, a lot of kind of riding on country roads, not a lot of traffic, so it was good. Kind of weird being all by yourself. If you get a flat or have any trouble, there's no one to call. So yeah, I was like, okay, I put on some new tires. Friday, I get into Lakewood Ranch and go to the packet pickup, and there's James Evans and Annie Klein from the Louisiana ride, and met some other friends of theirs, Jamie Burgess, Shannon Powers, Mitzi, and they had some issues with the route, and they were going to have to change the route at the last minute, and they're shortening the routes. I think the longest supported route was going to be 65 miles. And James is like, I got this. I'm the route guy. And so he plans a route and he goes, ride with us. Okay. And so it was phenomenal. Jamie had a big speaker. She was rocking Baby Got Back. And we had a great time on the ride. We got to go ride through Casey Key. It was gorgeous. We stopped, took pictures at the beach. It was fun. And then when the ride was over, they had a big party. They literally had like pirate ship parade floats. They had rum. It was a whole pirate themed deal. And they had a party. They have a jersey contest, which is when they have a little contest to have people kind of strut and show their stuff in their jerseys, and they have winners for that. And it was really good time. It was a really good experience, and it was really great riding with James and Annie and Jamie and Mitzi and Shannon. They were really awesome. And as a result of all that, James reached out to me and said, "Hey, Shannon and I want to come and ride in the San Antonio ride in October." I'm like, "Yes, come on out." So I'll see them again in a few months, and that's awesome. So. That was Lakewood Ranch.
Oh, there's always that one really bad road. Every ride has to have one.
So I was leaving Florida. I just had a nice rest day with my aunt and uncle. Left Florida and then needed to pick up Nicole in Houston on Thursday night. So if you remember, the plan was to drive Mondays, Wednesdays. It was a little trickier this particular week. So since I'm going from Florida to Texas, I might as well hit the beach. So on that Tuesday of the fourth week, I rode in Destin, Florida, and I did a route that was a little sketchy. So, but it was awesome. I got to see the beach. It was nice. So Florida was good. And then I drove on Wednesday to, there's Galveston and the Bolivar Peninsula, there's a ferry that goes between them, and I didn't quite have enough time to make it all the way to Galveston because it was a long driving day. So I stayed on the Bolivar Peninsula, and then my training ride on Thursday, I think I did about 50 miles. I started on the Bolivar Peninsula. I actually rode to the ferry, and I tried to catch the ferry, and I had to wait for the next one. And then took the ferry over and rode Galveston, which my dad worked in Galveston most of my childhood, so I spent a lot of time there in the summers and spring breaks. So I tried to catch a lot of old sites at Hotel Galvez. I tried to capture some footage of some of the stuff that we used to do and places we used to go along the way. But I basically rode up the seawall and then back through downtown along the Strand, back across the ferry to the RV, and then I had to pick up my wife Nicole at the airport in Houston that Thursday night because she was going to drive me around for the Bike MS 150. So the MS 150 ride is a big ride. There's a group that starts in Houston and a group that starts in Austin, and so day one they both ride from those locations and meet in the middle in LaGrange, Texas, overnight there at Fairgrounds, and then ride from LaGrange into Kyle Field and College Station on day two. So the Bike MS 150, the Texas Bike MS 150 is the biggest ride in Texas by a pretty significant margin. I think they had roughly 5,000 riders starting from two locations. And so had a little bit of a cross tailwind, which was nice because the people coming from Austin were pretty grumbly. So a lot of local San Antonio riding friends did this same ride, and most of them started in Austin. And so I didn't see them day one, but we met in the middle and saw them on day two. And so even starting from the packet pickup, it was like, wow, there was a VIP whole area for folks that passport riders and folks with MS. I just walking in was like, oh wow, there's a huge crowd and big lines and there's a lot of people. So did the packet pickup the night before the ride, and then stayed near Katy because the start was pretty close to Katy, Texas. And then I rode from there to LaGrange, and it was a lot of fun. There are a lot of people supporting, especially because it's such a big ride. There are like families along the way. There are what they call pirate rest stops. There's at least one where they were giving Jello shots if you pulled over on the side of the road. There was another house where there was a whole family that was handing out beer to riders. I said no thanks. During the ride, not after. So it was just really well supported. There were a ton of people. You were riding out. You were never alone. There were people around all the time. So it was really cool. And at the end of day one is this massive like tent village. So the teams get, if they're a certain size and raise enough a certain amount of money, the teams have team tents. So we had a meat fight tent, and the captain of our ride, Jim Casey, had pulled some folks in from Google, so in Austin, and so we had the meat fight Google tent was a shared tent, and it's just this massive village, and there's people everywhere. There's people like waiting in line to shower. There's people there camping and tenting overnight there. There's RVs and all kinds of stuff, and we got to see a lot of local people. It was really cool because the people I ride with on local rides were there for the cause, for the Bike MS stuff, and also all the meat bike people were there. So it was kind of a coming together of, I was having like Raymond Slush and Teresa and some of the people I ride with that are like Team Left Hand. They were riding with the Austin team, Team Taco Deli, and we were all just kind of hanging out, and they were getting to meet the meat fight people and hang out. And that's really cool because later on, Raymond Slush and Stephen Kramer and some other folks would end up going to do a ride in Colorado, and they were like, hey, it was actually James Johnson and his wife Esther. She goes, hey, we rode with some of your meat fight people on the Colorado ride. So it kind of becomes this community, and people are just pulling together and doing it all for cause. And I got to talk to a lot of people about, why do you Bike MS? What is meat fight all about? What is meat fight for you? I talked to Jim Casey. I talked to other folks from other groups, and how does this affect you, and why do you do what you do?
Meat fight, or what I want people to know about it. I think the biggest thing about us is we aren't what I would call like a support group, but we're a kind of a family of people that are doing hard things, but having fun doing it. Like different cycling events or marathons or triathlons. And I think the cool thing about us is about half of the people that are in our team are people living with multiple sclerosis. And having regular cardio exercise helps people with MS to be able to deal with things. But the cool part is that's good for everybody. And so I think it's started out as a way for us to really participate, be active in the MS community, help people, and it's kind of evolved into it's still that, but now it's just like this really cool family, and we drag my coworkers at Google in here now too. So I can be persuasive. So that's what I would say.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Why do you Bike MS? Why would you tell people, what do you, because you don't have MS, but you're very, very involved and active and all that.
Well, even with Team Taco Deli, we have Dr. Doggett, who still practices because her MS was caught early, and the medications that she's taking that are up to date are allowing her. In fact, she just did the Austin ride from Austin to here with her mom.
Okay.
And we have another teammate named Doug, who has been a long-time MS patient. His neurologist took him off of his medications because he's doing well. And he rode the ride with us, and he was at every rest stop with us.
That's great.
And it is great.
One of Meat Fight's big goals is to keep people with MS active and moving. And it is also one of the best MS support groups that I have ever found, because you're surrounded by like-minded people with MS, and it is a fantastic organization and a fantastic place to donate to, because they help people like me and wonderful people like you. Meat fight! Thank you.
If you want people to know one thing about why Bike MS or why Meat Fight, what would it be?
We put butts on bikes.
Yeah?
That's what Meat Fight does. Puts butts on bikes for people with MS so that they can have the training programs and they can move forward with their lives and see the positive results. It doesn't matter how far you go or how long you go, it's the fact that you get your butt on the bike, you're working towards something that's going to benefit yourself from a healthy perspective.
Awesome. Anything you have to add?
For me, I know so many people that have MS, and nobody in my family, but I know so many people, and it's just horrible to watch people suffer from that. And I want to find a cure for this, So they're out there surfing, I can surf more. So why suffer a little when you can suffer a lot?
Awesome. I appreciate what you do. Thank you, sir. And you too. Thank y'all so
We'll
much.
see you in San Antonio.
All right, sounds great.
We'll bring the party.
We'll see you in Dallas.
Oh, Dallas too. Dallas. Yeah, Dallas too. But we'll bring the party to San Antonio.
Sounds great. Awesome.
It was really great. And then day 2, riding from the campground, the fairgrounds in LaGrange to College Station, we had a pretty nasty headwind for a lot of it. But riding into College Station at the end was like finishing the stage of the Tour de France. For literally a quarter of a mile to a half mile, but it was just lined with people cheering. They had announcers, they had team tents, they had food and beer and people having a good time. One of the cool things about the Bike MS rides is you can challenge yourself to do something really hard and do 150 miles in 2 days, or a lot of times they have 35 mile, 50 mile options. So if you're new to riding, you don't have to go all out and go crazy. So you've got people there, especially like people with MS. There's another local captain in San Antonio, her name is Christine, who is on a trike, and she was there doing this ride, and she's doing a bunch of the other rides. And so some of these people, it's a big deal to finish. Some of these people are new riders and like, hey, I did my first ride. Some of these people have been doing it for 34 years, like John Bennett and Mark LeBlanc. These guys are just like there for the cause. They love to ride and they just want to go do it year after year. So it's really great to talk to these people, find out what motivates and drives them, what they love about it. But you get this sense of community, and we're all kind of there, you know, helping support each other. So finishing in College Station was amazing. And that was the end of week 4. All right, so we get back to San Antonio, and that is the start of week 5. And so literally one more ride. I get to spend a night in my own bed, which was really, really nice. So the plan was, there were some other folks from some different cities in the Meat Fight group that we were going to meet and do another ride at the Circuit of the Americas. We were going to do a training ride there. They have an RV camp spot there. So we're like, hey, we'll camp in the RV at the Circuit of the Americas and do the ride. It was a lot windy, it was cloudy, maybe little sprinkles here and there. So most of the other folks had to cancel for various reasons. So we actually, the reason I didn't make my 1,200 mile goal, I skipped a training ride that day, and then we headed out the next day for Dallas. So we had a night in Rowlett with my folks planning like, hey, how's this gonna work? Because we're starting in Mansfield and we're ending in Glen Rose on day 1. And so the plan was for my brother and his wife, my brother Eric and his wife Dawn, were gonna drive the RV from Mansfield to Glen Rose, hang out, have a couple beers, and then either stay there in Glen Rose and help do it again the next day, because day 2 was Glen Rose to Fort Worth. And so that was the plan. So as we're having our planning night on Thursday, we attempt to fix the RV window and it did not go well. So I basically had made a panicked trip across the bridge to Rockwall, and there were some guys that were amazing at an RV service center that help out literally an hour before closing. I owe a huge thanks to Dodie and Alex at Legacy Coach, because if they hadn't fixed the rivets and fixed the window crank, I would have been in trouble. I've been driving an RV with a busted window that would have cost a lot to replace. So huge thanks to the guys at Legacy Coach for helping out in Rockwall. So that brings us to the last ride. It's officially called the Roundup Ride, the Bike MS Roundup Ride. It's the Dallas-Fort Worth ride every year. It's a little bit different route this year. So day 1 was Mansfield to Glen Rose, and day 2 was Glen Rose to the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens.
Meat Fight, are you ready to roll? Let's take it to Glen Rose. We'll see you there.
Meat Fight! Meat Fight!
Nicole and I had a little bet. I bet that I could finish the 80-mile route faster than she could finish the 65-mile route. So I rode with David and Robin, and David and Robin are both really fast. And so we had a good day, but it rained a lot. We were soaking wet. It was a pretty miserable day from a weather perspective. The ride was good and supported, but I have a bike computer, and I could see that Nicole was actually ahead of me. At the end of the day, she beat me. and so that's part of the deal. I have to admit that on camera, that my wife beat me. She finished, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes quicker than I did. So there was that. But then the end of day one for the ride in Glen Rose was really awesome. It's the biggest meat fight bike MS event, because meat fight's based out of Dallas, and so the Dallas ride is their biggest ride. I want to say we had 100 or maybe even more than 100 riders with a meat fight team. So got to talk to a lot of people, a lot of great people at the meat fight tent after the ride. My brother Eric and his wife Dawn brought the RV down to Glen Rose for us. They hung out for a little bit, so got to talk to them, got to talk to Mike Casey, Ali Sowles, a lot of people who've been part of meat fight for a long time.
Hi, my name is David Padilla, and why do I bike MS? Well, I bike MS because Meat Fight gave me a bike. How many years now? 6 years ago? 7 years ago? How do you know about
Do you know what number your bike is?
No, actually I do, yes. I'm bike number 91. At the time, I actually had heard about Meat Fight beforehand, and a buddy of mine told me, hey, you should reach out and kind of see what they have going on. But yeah, I was diagnosed with MS in 2011. Heard about Meat Fight as an organization that gives bike support with MS, and figured I'd just inquire about the bike programs, and sure enough, I got a bike. I was bike number 91. Once I got the bike from Meat Fight and started participating in bike MS and doing things, yeah, I feel like my fitness is just gone up through the roof. I mean, I feel like I could do so many things that I feel like I couldn't do before, and I don't even think about my MS.
All right, and I am talking with
Gina Clary.
Gina Clary. Why do you bike MS? Why do you meat fight? What is it to you?
So, well, Meat Fight was the catalyst to Bike MS because they donated a bike to me back in 2017. And before I received that bike and that challenge to do a Bike MS, I don't think I had ever even envisioned, even before I had MS, that I could ride 150 miles in 2 days. So I took on the challenge, and now I've just taken on more challenges, and I do this every year because I want to raise funds and awareness for people who have MS, and to be able to do whatever I can for those who can't, because there are a lot of people who have MS who can't ride a bike or can't walk a mile, and so I want to raise that awareness so that we can do whatever we can for anyone who can't do those things, so that we can get those people doing those things with a cure for MS.
That is awesome. Thank you. So wait, so you said 2017, but now you do triathlons and all kinds of craziness?
I have done those things, yes. I sort of drank the Kool-Aid.
And you're a team captain?
I am.
So,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you do that to give back?
To give back, to give my time, because Meat Fight has given me so much, and it sounds cliche, but I'm a completely different person from the person I was before Meat Fight became a part of my life. So I'm gonna cry. But yeah, so it's really important to me, and I'm happy to share the meat love wherever I go.
Both my sisters have MS, and so I started riding the Houston, Austin. This year was my 35th one, so a couple years ago I hooked up with the passport ride, and now I do as many as I can once I get the passport.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for what you do, man. And why have you done the MS 150 32 years in a row?
People like Pam, and the people like, yeah, I was pointing at her, and all of our friends that I've met, and meeting wonderful people like yourself who continue to raise money for MS. You know, I got started because MS keeps people from moving, and as an exercise physiologist, it's all about movement. And so that was my thing, and then I met a bunch of people. So
this money that we raise, they built wheelchair ramps. You know, they have a summer camp for adults, for kids who never got to go to summer camp that had MS.
Wow.
They get to do canoeing, fishing, swimming, stuff that they can do with supervision that they never were able to do. I mean, let's say you have a friend or relative who has MS and you're taking care of them. They will come to your house or wherever you're staying with that person and say, get out of here. Come back in 5 days, take a rest, go scream, whatever you need to do. We're going to take care of it. So this money goes to a lot of different places people don't know about.
I
I ride because I have MS and I have for over 23 years now, and I want to raise as much money as I can to allow for better treatments and hopefully a cure someday so that people won't have to deal with what we have to deal with. But that's what I do, and plus my community is amazing, and I have an amazing community, and that's why I'm part of Meat Fight, because of the community and because of the people and the team and the cause.
What do you want people to know about Meat Fight?
That we do a lot of good for a lot of people.
What do you want people to know about Meat Fight?
I want them to know that 93% of the money that they donate to Meat Fight goes straight to people with MS. We give $30,000 to UT Southwestern in Austin. Fellowships. We sponsor those 2 fellowships. We sponsor riders in 31 different cities on bike rides. We sponsor 6 different walk teams. We sponsor people for the Dallas Marathon, the Boston Marathon, the New York Marathon, 4 different Ironman events, and basically a hike team. So we got a lot of different things that we do. We've raised almost $2 million for the Dallas ride in the 15 years we've been doing that. We've raised almost $3 million nationally in the other 36 different rides, 31 rides, bike rides, and 6 walk teams.
Day 2 rolls around, and it had rained all night long. And so the RV was about a mile or so from the start line. So we got up in the morning, day 2, and David and Robin Panilla had actually stayed in a little cabin in the same place where our RV campsite was. So we rode over to the starting line with them. And the director of the ride said, hey, because of the flooding, there's a lot of flooding, the safety folks said we're not going to be able to start here. So we're going to basically get some trucks and load up all the riders and basically truck their bikes and then people in buses to the lunch stop. So it's basically 35 miles into a 70-mile ride. So basically we could skip the first 30 miles of the ride, but we waited around for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, loaded all the bikes up in trucks, and then unfortunately they had to cancel day 2 because they said, hey, we talked to the safety folks and they said we just can't make it work. So we're gonna bus everybody to Fort Worth and just start the party a little bit early. So we actually, because our bikes were already loaded up in trucks, we walked the mile back to the RV. I called my brother and said, hey, thank you, don't need you today. Walked back to the RV and then drove the RV to Fort Worth, and then got to see all our friends and folks at the finish line at Fort Worth. I had Nicole run through the arch like she had won a marathon, and that was fun. But it was a really good event. They had live band there. Again, a lot of these events have live music and themes and great food and great support and great people. So we still had a proper finish at the end of the day, even though we didn't get to ride. And it was the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens were really nice. It was really cool. So sad that we didn't get to do the day 2, but I'm sure we'll get to make it up in more rides and do it again next year. So there was some really great moments. There's some challenging and some learning opportunities, but I think for me the most memorable and the thing that is really lasting is about the people. I mean, it's like Whitney Wilson is somebody I've met pretty recently, meat bike recipient. She was a volunteer at the La Tap ride that I did, and she got to ride in the Dallas ride, and she's going to be my co-captain for the San Antonio Ride the River Bike MS event in October. She's great. From our team captains, Jim Casey, Gina Clary, they've been awesome. Michael Moberly and his wife Deneen, except Michael, if you're watching, that 5 a.m. Meat Fight shout right outside the RV in the parking lot at the stadium in Mansfield. You know what I'm talking about. Jerry Bedondo, the guy who lent me the RV, he had an AirTag, was tracking me and checking up on me and just, was interested in what was going on. His RV is named Gertie, and Gertie has her own Instagram. It's Go Gertie Go. So I was posting some stuff there. Sarah Reed is a new friend I met recently. She was unable to ride in the Houston ride and was pretty sad about that, but she was up in the bed of a truck with a microphone cheering people on, and it was just phenomenal. So it was just a lot of great people, just being awesome. And of course, I couldn't have done any of this without the amazing support of my wife, who helped support, helped take care of the dogs at home, helped drive the RV, and got to ride with me and be part of the experience. So that was pretty awesome. So thanks. so what's next? So this was an awesome thing for me to do. From a selfish perspective, I got to ride, I got to do my bucket list trip, I got to talk to a bunch of people, and make this, you know, little documentary that is, I just know people telling their stories is going to be awesome. In a couple months, I get to do the ride in San Antonio. It's the Bike MS Ride to the River. And some of the people I've met along the way are going to be there. So like friends from Louisiana, James and Shannon, and Sarah Reed says she's coming. Michael Mobley says he's coming. All these people. Michael Casey's going to come help with a 10, and so is Mobley. So we're going to have a party in San Antonio, October. If you can't make that, it's 2024. You're like, oh, I want to do that. Maybe you're seeing this after the fact. Every year, they do these every year. So we're gonna go again next year. I'm probably not gonna get to do all the rides, but at least the ones I can get to that are in Texas or close by, and maybe Louisiana. But come out, get involved with a local bike club, get involved in the MS ride. It's a great cause. They're amazing people, and it's something that you really cherish. Whether it's your first ride and you finish doing a short one, or you're pushing yourself to do as many miles and as many feet of elevation as you can climb. They're awesome. So I hope to see you out there. You may have watched this short film and asked yourself, what is Macho Grande all about? Or you may remember the line from the movie Airplane. But in a former life, I may or may not have been a luchador dancing in a music video. And Macho Grande was the name of the luchador that I gave to myself. So I needed a catchy name for this whole endeavor, and I'd already had thought of the logo. So there you go with the story of Macho Grande. I don't think I'll ever get over Macho Grande. Thanks for watching.
Peace out. Peace out.